I could just listen to that all night.
Such a good song.
It's such a good tune. Welcome, everybody, to yet another episode of the Camera Life podcast. This is the Random Photography Show. Although maybe it's not so random. We've got some things to discuss. We've got some...
It's getting more and more organised every week.
We're amazing, aren't we? We're such a duo. We're like Batman and Robin. It is the 26th of May, and this is episode 82. We're on the march to 100 episodes, as well as 2,000 subscribers. Speaking of which, if you're following along and this is your first time joining us, please make sure you hit the like button. It helps out with the algorithms. And also subscribe. Tickle the bell, because then you get notified. What do you get notified for, Justin?
Every time we go live, because sometimes...
Shenanigans.
Yeah, shenanigans, that too. Sometimes we go live twice a week regularly, but sometimes we do a secret, extra, irregular show. So, you know, you don't want to miss it.
We are the most irregular people you could find for this show. Do you want to jump to some hellos already?
Yeah, there's people in the comments. Good evening, Bruce. Good evening, Philip. Good evening, Rick. Good to see you
G'day,
all.
Guys. Welcome. Welcome.
Can't wait to see what you think about tonight's topics that we have to talk about. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we've got a bit to cover. Actually,
I'm excited to see what Bruce thinks about one of them, because Bruce wasn't around for our Friday show, so I think he might have some hot takes. Maybe we'll see.
He might. Indeed.
And good evening, Brett. Great to have you all here.
Yeah. Welcome one and all.
Welcome. How have you been, Greg? I haven't spoken to you for hours. It's been almost 2 or 3 hours.
2 hours. Yeah, good. Busy. Writing away my little stories about cameras and lenses and photography. Little tap.
Like monkey at the typewriter thing. You got a whole room full of those.
I do have a whole room of monkeys. And fortunately, they all know how to use AI. So yeah, the article writing stuff is a breeze for me now. It's just so easy.
Just cranking them out.
Especially
getting AI to write the articles for unreleased cameras. That's
yeah. It's genius. It's absolutely genius. Anyway, enough about AI for now. We'll get to more of that a little bit later. But how about you? How are you doing?
I'm good. It was a busy day. Busy Monday. So just trying to get on top of things. I've got a shorter week this week. Fly up to Brisbane on Thursday afternoon, straight after the Thursday podcast. So trying to fit a work week kind of into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right. So, nice. So you got a little trip to Vegas. Any hot plans? What are your hot plans?
We're up there for a CrossFit competition. Just to view, not to participate. That'd be madness. So yeah, we're kind of, that's our weekend. A few friends. We're just, we're up there for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then back home again. Just a quick one.
Just a quickie in Vegas.
Yeah, might take.
I think we've all been there, haven't we? We've all had a quickie in Vegas. Hey, he's gone suddenly quiet.
Anyway,
moving right along.
I've renamed this week's first segment, which used to be called Viewer Comments, but now it's called Week in Review. It's going to be a bit more broad and encompassing.
Yeah, it is.
Let me know if you like it, or if you don't like change, that's cool too.
Yeah, if you don't like change, then I have a good number for the therapist. Highly recommend.
Shall we look at some YouTube comments? There was only a couple this week again, which is crazy because our Friday show about the Fujifilm X-Half was probably the biggest. The chat went insane, and it was the busiest chat we've had. It was
insane. We had a lot of people watching, a lot of eyeballs on the prize. We don't know where they were coming from, but they were watching.
They were everywhere. It was good. Now, speaking of that show, how do you pronounce this? At Zachary Carr. No, that wasn't too hard. The BF is already back ordered, I believe. So the BF being we were talking about this on the show, the Sigma BF, which is that fancy aluminium machined camera that only has 1 or 2 buttons and looks very cool, but may not be that great to shoot with. It's hard to know. We haven't had our hands on it.
It is hard to know. We will try.
But yeah, apparently they're not making many, so it's already gone on back order, which is, I guess, a good sign for Sigma. Taking a chance on that one.
Yeah. Speaking of cosplay cameras, I think the Sigma BF is a camera cosplaying as a MacBook Pro.
Yeah, well, or is it the other way around? Yeah, it's definitely got the Apple vibe going on.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, cool.
I think it's cool. I like it.
Evening, Nev. Good to see you there in the comments.
Hey, Nev, what is it, like lunchtime in Western Australia? In Western Australia, you and I haven't even had that chat we had 2 hours yet. 2 hours ago. Hasn't happened.
Rick Nelson says they can only make 4 BFs a day. I thought it was 7, but I could be imagining that as well. But yeah, there was definitely a very small cap on what they were pumping out because they're like the machining and all that sort of stuff. And they're obviously trying to keep it fairly limited because it's not a mass appeal camera. It's going to be quite specialized, I think. But
it is.
Keen to get my hands on one.
But it is interesting that, yeah, we're going to try and get our hands on one for the channel. We're going to try and do some video and other content, but it'd be interesting to see how well the BF does. Yeah,
it could be with other cameras coming out with more and more buttons and mechanical things on them, this one had less and less, which was bold. Definitely bold.
I dig it.
I know you dig it. You said
I'm all for minimal shooting. Yeah, I do want one.
Yeah. Anyway. Next comment. This is from a video that I did last year when I was doing a video a day. The video is called Testing the Canon R5 Mark II Autofocus, Point of View Mountain Bike Sports Photography. And I was making a video every day. This was a video I did with a GoPro on my chest while I was shooting a paid shoot for a client where I have 2 hours, usually with a rider who's also getting paid, to get out and shoot both photo and video content enough to pull together a full review article and full review video for a new mountain bike that's being released. That's what I do often for a company called Flow Mountain Bike. You'll find them on YouTube and the web and all that stuff. Anyway, so I made that video. Nev Clark remembers that video.
Hey, nice.
Thanks, Nev. Anyway, the comment from Rich Schmidt 100 says, "Why didn't you do some with off-camera flash? You would have gotten much more dramatic images. Your shots here look rather washed out and flat. Try to push your envelope and don't stay in your comfort zone."
Yeah, Justin. You should have had a coffee in hand at the same time.
Thanks, Rich. I see what you're saying, Rich. And yes, you can get quite cool and dramatic shots using off-camera flash. I have done that before. Kind of hard when you're shooting hybrid photo video in a couple of hours and you're like everything's on my back in a backpack and we're on bikes. We're not like cruising around with a car or wheelie bags and that kind of stuff.
Studio.
It's not a studio. And I know I can do quick and dirty light off-camera flash. So I could take flashes with me, but you got to imagine setting up for, setting up for a shot for video, you're going to set up a similar shot for photo. And you're not going to do the same thing if you're going to light flash. So I'd be doing 2 completely separate shots for photo and video if I was using off-camera flash, and it would slow everything down way more. The rider would be like, dude, I don't have this kind of time. I'd end up delivering way less images, less variety, and not to mention the client doesn't do the off-camera flash look. They like their look to be more natural, to feature the trails and that kind of stuff. But I appreciate you telling me to get out of my envelope and push my comfort zone or something like that. The shot's looking rather washed out and flat. I don't know if you saw in the video, but they're all JPEG straight out of camera, and I thought they looked pretty good. So bring it. Bruce Miles says he has a point. Justin is just phoning it in. And excuses, they were all excuses. I'd practiced those before the show. Yelena says she's hang on, what's this? Watching by myself on the Facebook Live. Oh, you're on the Facebook Live feed and it's not exciting over there. Yeah, there's no chat on Facebook Live except for, hang on, Ian Thompson was there. Good evening, Ian. He's on Facebook. Good to see you. So now Ian Thompson's watching there by himself because Yelena left. And finally, Nev Clark says, sports with off-camera, lol, let's chuck an 80cm softbox on the bike. That'll work. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to use, if I've done it, I've used a reflector, usually not a softbox, unless we're doing something just for one shot, going out there to get one cool shot, not an entire series of images. Anyway. Yeah.
But that would be cool to put a softbox on the front of the bike.
Yeah, well, we could try it.
Big octagon one.
I could fly it with my drone. And finally, the drunk wedding photographer, I actually was telling him how on the show, that is, my Nikon F5 wouldn't turn on because the contacts were dirty. And he says, use one of them corrosion removal pens to clean the contacts, usually all it needs. And I didn't realize those were a thing. I tried cleaning it with like some steel wool and stuff, but I'll go and try and find a corrosion removal pen, I'm guessing from somewhere like JCar or an electronics store, and I'll figure that out.
Be worth a Google.
Thank you, drunk wedding photographer. Nev Clark is on a treadmill laughing, and no one in the gym can understand why I'm laughing. Oh, that's awesome. You're at the gym. Get it done, Nev. Nice work. And you're listening to us.
Yeah.
Go faster. Put it up to 11.
Yeah. Come on. Don't be a slob.
Get out of your comfort zone, Nev.
Open your envelope.
Don't just stay on the treadmill. Go on the stair stepper too.
Yep. Come on.
Push your envelope. Okay, what else? Week in review.
A couple of things last week.
We had a really cool Thursday guest.
We had a great Thursday guest, Andrew Ravenko, Ukrainian-born, Melbourne-based fine art photographer. Joined us to talk about his originally unintentional large format and medium format film photography project called the Rocket Girl Chronicles. Basically, it was during the 6th lockdown of the pandemic here in Melbourne. Melbourne had I think the world's longest lockdowns when you combine all the days together. We had multiple lockdowns, and during the 6th one, where it all sort of turned to poo, he started going on walks with his daughter, and his daughter was into space and everything space and astronauts. So he and his wife made her a spacesuit complete with, I think it was a paper mache helmet, might be wrong, but proceeded over the course of lockdown to go on walks with his daughter. And obviously lockdown, you're only allowed to walk. There weren't that many people out. There was no traffic. There was no one really, and captured these amazing fine art images on large and medium format cameras. Or was it just the large?
No. Most of it was with the, what was it? The 67. So medium format. Most of it was medium format.
Medium format.
He was only sort of progressing into large format more recently. But most of it was with the medium format film. The
6x7.
Yes.
Anyway, so wonderful chat. And I think for me, and I emailed him today to thank him for being a guest on the show. I do that with all our guests. I touch base and offer a little thank you gift on behalf of Lucky Straps and the Camera Life. And we had a chat, and I said, for me, what really stood out about your story and your telling of your story was that you weren't recounting necessarily a photography project. You were recounting a really precious time that you spent with your family. It was a really tricky time here. Well, it was globally, but we had lots of lockdowns, lots of restrictions, curfews at night. Like, it was really full on. But he dedicated his time to spending what time he could with his young daughter and with his wife, and to take her out and see the world when the world had shut down. So for me, his story was all about family and family time. And that's really powerful, I think, because it was an undercurrent throughout his telling of the story, and it was definitely an undercurrent of the Rocket Girl Chronicles project. So yeah, look, go back and watch that one, guys. It was last Thursday. Andrew Ravenko. He's also got a book that he made of it, and that book itself, I mean, he won awards for the Rocket Girl Chronicles.
He said, so he was on the show. He said his work is currently getting exhibited. Was it in Argentina or somewhere?
Yeah, somewhere in South America.
So it's getting exhibited at a place he's never been to. Basically, he sends them the digital files, and they print them and curate an exhibition of his work in a gallery on the other side of the world, which is insane to me.
Yeah, and so and he's also he created a book for it too, a beautiful coffee table book. And that ended up winning awards.
Yeah.
Several awards.
The list of the awards were like from all over the world as well. I was reading through. I was like, oh my God, this guy's. And then he gets on there and he's like, I'm not a real photographer. I don't, I just do this for fun. I'm not like all, the other photographers you have on the show. I was like, dude, your work is
very humble.
And, very, very humble. So definitely worth a listen. And it gets you thinking about how, sometimes we're searching for projects to do, and often they come out of the something that you're not even thinking about being a project, and it just naturally evolves. And that's where the magic was for him. He wasn't searching for a photography project when he started doing this.
No, it just sort of came into being, all these little points connected at the right time for him and his family, obviously, and that's what came of it. I think it's a really beautiful silver lining story from a shitty time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So that was great.
And that was the other thing is I really think because I wasn't exposed to the work. It got really popular during COVID because of what was happening in the world. I never actually saw the images during COVID, and so I was exposed to them well after COVID was over, and it completely stands on its own. It wouldn't have even mattered to me when they were made. It doesn't, it's more the feel in each image is so, I don't know, otherworldly and also whimsical and fun. Most of them make you smile. It's super, super good work. Very, very unique.
So check it out.
Bruce says he's looking forward to catching that interview over the next couple of days. Stupid work requires me to do things. It's so inconvenient.
Responsibilities.
I know.
Unbelievable.
And yeah,
what else
the other
happened
show,
last week?
Well, the other show we had was our surprise show where you talked through your review of the Fujifilm X-Half, but we'll recap that in one of the later segments a little bit.
All right.
Go over some of that. Now,
I'll put a pin in it, as the corporates say.
Put a pin in it. Well, I've also got some stuff from the Lucky Straps mailbox. I'm expanding this section to include that. So first of all, let me read this one out. This
read
is
the letters.
A gentleman.
Viewer letters.
Yeah, viewer letters by the name of Robert Horton. And he says, "Hey guys, my order arrived today and the strap looks great on its attachment to the Nikon F2 that I purchased back in 1972. So this guy bought an F2 brand new in 72.
And he's only just got a Lucky Strap.
Yeah, up until this point he's had no strap. Terrible. He says, I think it's a fitting strap for the old timer. I also have a Nikon F from 1968, and it looks like it might need a Lucky Strap as well. Regards, Rob." Now, he also included a picture. That's why I'm doing this. Let me bring this up. Check this beast out.
Oof.
Look at it.
That's phenomenal.
Nice, right?
And what strap is that on it there, Justin?
It's a Deluxe 45. My only criticism to Robert is his name's upside down. He's had it personalized, and then his name's upside down in his photo, so that makes me sad. But other than that, look at that thing.
Yeah, it's pretty beastly.
Bruce hasn't been used until he got the strap. Yeah, it's just been sitting on the shelf.
Just been waiting for the right strap to show
Waiting for the right strap to come on. But yeah,
we've all been there.
It's so.
Look at that lens. What is that lens?
It's a.
If you zoom in a bit, you can see
50 mil 1.4. Nikkor SC Auto 50 mil 1.4. I can almost read the serial number. It just gets, Very nice. Very nice. Anyway, some of the cool stuff we get in the inbox.
Very cool.
Oh, and this is a belated inbox. Nev Clark says sexy. And Paul says, I got my BFOP Lucky Strap to go on the K1000, but it subsequently moved to the R5. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
It's a good match for the R5. Okay, so.
You know what I found with multiple cameras? It's just easier to have multiple straps.
You're trying to do
I'm not doing an ad read. I'm just serious. I've just discovered that, rather than bouncing my Lucky Strap, because I only use wrist straps, the deluxe wrist straps, rather than bouncing my Lucky Strap from one camera to the other, because I generally only walk out the door with one, I have two straps. I mean, granted, I'm privileged. I work for the brand. So anyway, use code Greg. Get a second strap.
Use code, Yelena said, use code Greg. Yelena, come on.
And Yelena.
So another one from the Lucky Mailbox. This one I actually missed. It was from weeks ago. So after we had Dean Cooper's episode, we ended up at some point chatting about infrared cameras. And a legend by the name of David Leparati sent me an email because we were talking about hotspots and all that sort of stuff and conversions. and he basically sent me an email with a heap of links with some information about dealing with infrared hotspots, choice of infrared filter conversion, which lenses are compatible, and all that sort of stuff. And here we go. Let me just read this part. There are 4 main infrared filter conversions available. I mentioned that I had a Fuji X-E2 converted by Imaging Design in Melbourne, but I don't know if they do it anymore. There's a website in the US called lifepixel.com that do these conversions, and they've got a lot of information and samples. A few more links to a couple other great websites. But then he also said, oh, this is interesting. When a camera is converted, it needs to be calibrated for a lens and is set with a custom white balance. I didn't realize that either. So you have to choose the lens when you convert a camera for infrared photography. Does that sound right? That's what is that? Am I reading that right?
I don't know. I feel like we need Crackers Carrick on board to.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe we need to get Greg and David on.
Well, I want to get David on because basically then David said, also there's a bit more work on my website if you want to see some more examples of infrared images. And I was like, okay, let me check this out. I'm going to bring up his website. Because I was like, these photos are very cool. So he's got a whole gallery of infrared black and white images that he's taken with the XE2 and also 400D, Canon EOS 400D. And I just love that. I love that look.
It's crazy, isn't it? So punchy.
So punchy. You know, like these sort of random streetscapes and things.
Oh, look at that.
That it just changes the way everything looks. I feel like it would be a really fun, just get out and see everything completely different again. It would be like learning photography again. You would
photograph everything, wouldn't you? You'd go through that
just to see what it looks like.
Experimental phase, yeah.
Yeah. So I really enjoy it. It wasn't until I saw it, and he's got a whole gallery of color as well, but which is fun too. But it wasn't until I saw it, with these really dramatic skies and the contrast and stuff. I'm like, I need to do this at some stage. I just don't know what camera and all that sort of stuff. But
gosh, it takes me back to my film days.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was very cool. And then I was like, I wonder, so it's got About David on here. Anyway, David says in his About page, sorry, David, I didn't tell him I was going to read this stuff out on the podcast if you happen to be listening now or later on.
Yeah.
But it says, I've worked in many areas of photography for more than 47 years. And he originally started by joining the RAAF, which is the Royal Australian Air Force, to be a photographer. So trained at the RAAF to be a photographer, used tons of cameras, lots of film. It goes through everything. Moved to Fujifilm in 2015, which will make Greg happy. And then got into infrared. So we're going to try and get him on the podcast. He sounds like he'd be a really interesting guest, and has been very, very helpful with his knowledge on infrared.
Speaking of knowledge, a couple of comments. Young Bruce, no, actually Yelena. Sorry, Yelena. Use code Greg in case anyone missed it earlier. Bruce has said, yum, big fan of infrared and black and white. And then he's also gone on to say, autofocus wouldn't be accurate on a conversion, I would expect. Are you talking about the lens? Are you talking about because the sensor has changed, Bruce? Let us know what you mean by that one.
And I wonder how does that work with mirrorless? Yeah, because it's on sensor. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Lucinda Goodwin. Hey, Lucinda. Lucinda's joining us on Thursday morning for a chat. Yeah. So make sure you tune in for that one, guys. Camera Clinic used to convert to infrared. Pretty sure they still do. They are in, is that Easy or Eshe Street, Collingwood? I think it's Eshe if it's Collingwood.
Yeah, maybe. Camera Clinic. I convert. I'll do this later. I'm just getting ahead, so I don't forget. Thanks, Lucinda.
Good hot tip.
And yeah, I think is that pretty much it for the week in review?
I think that is the week in review. I didn't really get out with my camera at all.
I did.
Nah.
I got out with the this one. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, good. Nice segue. All right.
Bruce says wavelength is different and some would be cut depending on the conversion. Also depends on phase or contrast autofocus. Yeah.
Okay.
But I could be talking out of my ass. Yeah, well, that's all we do.
It's all about the confidence, Bruce. It doesn't matter
right.
what bullshit you're saying. It's all about the confidence. Just look at any politician.
We're definitely going to have to do it though. We're going to have to try this. Wow. Camera is this their current website? Oh my gosh.
Bring it up. Bring it up.
Camera. Oh, I can't. Can I do this to them? I probably can. It'll be worth it. And I'm getting there. Bear with me, folks. Here I come. This is Camera Clinic's
This
website.
just says, yeah, straight from the 70s.
From the 70s, yeah. Hey, I mean, they do good work, so I don't really care, but I was just like, this is
wow.
old.
There's no need for a Wayback Machine for this one.
No, it just doesn't change. We go way back.
It's like, yeah, it's just the same.
It's one of the first websites. But they obviously get so much work that they don't need a fancy website because, you know, when you need an expert, you need an expert.
Although looking at that website, that is a website designed by someone that's very technically minded. It's all laid out very accurately.
Yeah.
It just doesn't replicate the sort of websites we're used to, which are light and fluffy.
And larger. But yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Designed to fit older monitors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vertical. Oh, vertical.
Vertical.
Hey, vertical wins.
Yeah, that's all the rage.
Yeah, apparently. That's all the kids are talking about. Vertical, vertical, vertical. Let's talk news and rumors.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. Let me move us through with my sound effect. That was the wrong one. I'm sorry.
Idiot.
I didn't mean that. That was an accident.
Yeah.
They're both, one's yellow and one's green. Anyway.
All right. Going to get Justin a label maker for Christmas, folks. What news have we got? A couple of little things. We talked last week about, I think we talked about, was it Leica, Canon, and then Sony announced price increases due to the US tariff and the economic uncertainty. Well, it turns out that Nikon are also looking at increasing their prices for any products made in China because of the tariffs. So apparently none of their camera bodies are made in China. They're made in Vietnam or Thailand. Anyway, Jim will know. Jim, can you look on the bottom of your camera and tell us where it's made? But a lot of lenses and accessories are made in China. Yeah, they're putting their prices up too. So it seems everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Not a fun fad. Not at all.
They're doing it, hang on, they're doing it everywhere or they're doing it in the US?
In the US only at this stage.
In the US only, okay.
But I just mean,
that's good.
You know, all the brands are starting to follow suit. And
sorry, US people, but yeah.
We're sorry, but you know, you voted for it. What else? The humble little SD card celebrates 25 years. That's pretty amazing how quickly that time has gone.
Because does anyone remember Sony memory sticks? How cool they were?
Yeah, but they were expensive.
They were expensive.
I think my first one was 4 megabytes.
Yeah, and they didn't get compatibility, did they?
No, but some of them, but weren't some of them long sticks, but then others were short. And you had to buy an adapter to make them long again for different devices.
I only remember the long stick.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, I'm sure they also had short ones, and you could put them into a little adapter. Because I had them for my first digital camera was a Sony Cybershot. It was silver, and it was kind of long like this, and the lens was at one end, like this. Did it have a screen? I can't even remember if it had a screen, but it was like a brick. And I thought it was really sexy because it was slick and silver and like early Apple kind of design. But before that was compact flash.
Well, I've actually I've just found a website that's put this together nicely for us. Greg Carrick says, yes, I have a short one with an adapter. So there you go.
Thanks, Greg.
Paul says those sticks were weird. I agree.
Yeah.
And whoop. Hang on. Let me bring this up. share this instead. This is from Photo Shelter, so who knows whether it's going to be good or not, because they sell software, but they've put this article up, and it's the articles before SD cards. We save photos on these, and it says in 1988 Fuji MC1P used a card. Wow.
Oh, it looks like an old SIM card. Remember when SIM cards used to come on like a credit card size and you'd pop them out? Do they still do that? I don't know. But that's what it looks like.
89 Fuji X memory card. Fuji was doing some memory cards.
Yeah, they were pretty savvy in the early days.
8 megabit SRAM. Then compact flash, 1994. Very nice. The miniature card by Intel. AMD, Fujitsu, and Sharp backed the miniature card, aka mini card, but you'll likely have never seen one in this format because it was more, like digital audio recorders and handheld PCs. Okay. Smart media card. Interesting. Multimedia card.
Yep. Is that basically the SD? It is, isn't it?
It looks like it, but it doesn't say SD. Well, hang on. 25 years would have been 2000. Good maths. Can math. So we're getting to it. It looks very similar. Oh, no. We need someone else to run this show with Greg.
Hey,
I can't do it.
Let me just show you these comments. It's funny. So Greg Carrick has said 3.25-inch floppies. And then Lucinda has said those floppy disk cameras were epic. And then almost instantly at the same time, Bruce said those floppy cameras were crazy.
Yeah, everyone's keen on the floppies.
I love the floppy.
So Sony memory stick, that's the long skinny one.
That's the long ones, yeah.
1999 micro drive with IBM. As the world moved to solid state, IBM, along with Hitachi, decided that miniature spinning drives had a place in the world. These tiny 1-inch drives fit into the compact flash slots, but reliability and durability issues made this storage impractical. Micro drives all but ceased to exist by early 2006. Wow, so that's a compact flash-sized spinny disc.
That's crazy.
That's cool.
Imagine putting that in your camera. Oh, you'd worry it would take off and blow up.
Have those sounds that they used to make when the discs were spinning.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. SD,
Bruce
1999.
says those drives were used for iPods, apparently.
Really?
Those early drives.
No, iPods were solid state, weren't
He could be talking out of his ass again.
He could.
Paul said, my 256 megabit CF card cost $220 duty-free in Japan back in 2003, and that was cheap.
Wow.
256 meg.
Great Carrick. Hang on, I've got to defrag my stick. Defragging. Don't have to do that anymore, really, do you? Bruce says, you have one. Are you serious?
He's an audio guy. There's no surprises there.
Saying
he knows what he's talking about,
Justin? Spinny disc thing? I still think he might be messing with me. The XD card, I remember that. The Olympus XD. Olympus and Fujifilm teamed up to create a proprietary format as a competitor to SD. Whoops. Poor adoption, undoubtedly hurt by the proprietary licensing scheme, yes. But yeah, so Fuji's had a crack at quite a few medias. And then C-Fast, boom. XQD, fast. And then that's
XQD is a Sony only thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but now it's CF Express. Like they fit into the same slot. No, sorry, Sony only. No, you're thinking CF Express Type A versus Type B. XQD and CF Express Type B, or if I might have those backwards, I don't know, are the same shape, but they use different like architecture. XQDs aren't as fast, and they're basically gone now. We use them in the Nikons a lot. Yeah. So anyway, that was random and unplanned. But good learnings for all of us. Yeah, XQD was Nikon. Yeah, and they were good. I much prefer. A lot of people complain about those formats, like various formats changing in different cameras and stuff. But I really like the durability of XQD and CF Express Type B compared to an SD card. They're much more solid.
Of course.
Like they just feel way better. They don't break. And now that the prices come down, they're actually for high performing cards. I think they're cheaper for high performing larger cards. They're cheaper than SDs. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, that during those initial 2 decades of camera tech being developed, that there was a couple of little collaborations like Fuji and Panasonic, and trying to develop their own proprietary system, and SD won the day. But it's just interesting to see how desperate they were to have their own lead the market.
Yeah, and to license it and be like, hey, we made this. If you want to use it, you have to pay us. But if it doesn't catch on, then it was all not wasted, I guess. But it was just they don't get that big payoff. It is interesting when you look back and see how it all developed.
Yep.
What else we got? Rumors. Now, what do we want to talk about first? Well, it's not. It's like half rumor, half news. The Ricoh GR4 announcement.
No, it's not a rumor anymore. It's confirmed by Ricoh.
Yeah, so it's news now.
Yeah, they put out the teaser.
How much of it's confirmed and how much of it's still rumors when it comes to like what the camera will be?
Pretty much nothing is confirmed.
Okay.
It's interesting, and I don't know whether we should talk about this now, but basically they put out on socials and I think on their website, what does it say? There are some details, but it's all, improved this and more of this, and it will have a 28mm full frame equivalent, which it's an APS-C camera. Obviously, it's an f2.8.
Yeah.
They haven't said what's it got? It's got a new 24.24 megapixel image sensor. It's got a new processor, apparently. It's shifting away from 3-axis image stabilization to 5-axis image stabilization. So there are a few bits and pieces. And apparently they are looking at making a HDF model, like they did with the Ricoh GR3, where they've got 7 different versions of the same camera. Pretty much.
The HDF model was the one with the misty filter?
The highlight diffusion filter. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, the softy filter. So did you say that the resolution has just had a tiny little bump, but basically the same?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has compared to the 3.
To the 3. So it is a new sensor, we would presume. Well, I mean, it will be a new sensor, but it's not vastly different in terms of megapixels. The lens, I think I read somewhere that the lens is supposed to be a new design, but not vastly different, just one extra aperture blade or something.
Yeah, newly designed 18.3mm cropped 28mm f2.8. So, I mean, there are some details, but it's very early days. Apparently, there's going to be a prototype, non-working, just basically a dud at an upcoming show in Japan, a photo show that's happening in Japan. I think a lot of this info went out mostly because Fujifilm, on the exact same day, about an hour earlier, released yet another compact camera that's got people talking. And I think GR are feeling the squeeze because Fuji have 2 successful compact cameras and one that's questionable remains to be seen. And we're talking, of course, about the Fuji X-Half. So I think, they jumped on this very quickly and got this teaser out, and then later confirmed some specifications, but more to come is basically their stance, which is fair enough.
People have been hanging for the GR4, and so I guess knowing that it's coming, people will get hyped up, knowing that it's coming in some sort of duration. Say if it's later this year or whatever. People will start planning to make their purchase or whatever. Maybe they'll hold off from buying that other camera that they thought might do the job instead or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because people have been hanging out for an updated GR. The GR3 has been out for quite some time. Granted, they brought out the filtered one, the HDF, and they also brought out the X, which has got the different lens. It's got like a 40mm equivalent lens, I think, at least on the GR3.
Yeah, 40mm.
So they released, so there's the GR3, the GR3 HDF, the GR3X, the GR3X HDF, and then there's a whole bunch of special edition versions.
Street editions and stuff.
Diary edition.
Yeah.
I think there's like 3 different colorways, which is great. But the biggest complaint is that a lot of people couldn't get their hands on one.
Yeah.
Especially given that the X versions are only fairly recent compared to, the GR3 has been out for ages. So it's timely, and it is good timing for them to get something new out, because I think people are a bit frustrated with the brand. They want something a bit more punchy. They're seeing that the X100 Mark VI is, pushing out 40 megapixels with IBIS and it's Fuji's best processor. So they've got a lot to compete with. In the compact market, obviously, fixed lens market. So yeah, look, I wish them well. It's a camera that I've certainly had my eye on. I've wanted to review one for ages. Probably since this time last year.
I like the form factor. It's far more pocketable than the X100. Despite they're not that different, but they are. I think if it's sort of the difference between, could you get away with it in a jeans pocket, to like you look like a goose with an X100 in your jeans pocket. If you can get it in there, it looks weird.
Yeah, be like the 80s when I wore skinny jeans. I had my ciggies. You could tell it was a ciggy packet in one pocket, my Zippo lighter in the other. And like they were always in there. And so it would create like a permanent crease with a faded bit, the shape of the box.
Can you dig up some photos of you in the 80s, please?
There'll be no photos of Greggy from the 80s. They were all burned. No, they were all burned. Yeah, anyway, GR3, Greggy in the 80s.
Some more rumors.
Rumors
coming in the chat. Greg Carrick says, rumor Fujifilm are making a Fuji phone. Interesting.
Must be true because I put it on the internet.
It's a modern phone, but it's actually got a hand crank that it doesn't do anything, but you have to wind that if you want to make a phone call. It's like a modern, but it has the vibe of vintage aesthetic. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Anyway, more rumors before we move on. I don't know if it's a rumor. This is another one where I have lost track of keeping up whether they're rumors or like, what do you call them? Press releases about a development announcement. What's the deal? The Sony FX2, is that a press released announcement or is it a rumor still?
From my understanding, it is still a rumor. The problem with rumor sites and collecting your news from rumor sites, Justin, is that rumor sites love to write rumors as though they're news, which is what baffles people and confuses us to thinking we've seen something.
Which is why we've changed the name of this segment to News and Rumors, because now I can just put it all in one bucket.
You make up your own mind. Let us know in the chat whether you think it's a rumor or whether it's news.
Now, I saw some YouTubers getting angry about the FX2 release, and I was like, I don't understand what this is about, because obviously Sony's FX line it's pro video. I guess you would call it pro video, not mega pro, but pretty pro. The FX3 and the FX30 have been insanely popular for video. They sort of step over some of the limitations that you get with just your standard hybrid mirrorless offerings from Sony. But what's interesting about this is it's rumored or supposed to be having the 33 megapixel sensor that's in the A7 IV and the A7C Mark II.
Yep.
So it says also mentioned by who? Maybe this is mentioned by Sony. I don't know.
No. So it's got rumored in the bracket. Yeah, it's all rumors. So
it's too hard.
Granted, big bag of salt here, folks. Big bag of salt. One thing that is consistent across the news sites and the rumor sites, regardless of who you read, is that it will have an improved EVF incorporated into the camera design.
Okay. But so what's weird is that sensor is old. and it doesn't do 4K 60 at native, like with no crop, which, you know, all decent cameras in this, unless it's going to be cheap. I don't know. I don't understand. Maybe Bruce understands. It moves from prosumer to pro depending on the model. They are meant to match easily right up to Venice. So how is this pro though? Like, unless it's very cheap, it must. But it's an old.
Well, they're rumoring it's going to be $3,500 USD, which is about 45,000 Australian dollars at the moment. So,
yeah. So it's going to have rolling shutter issues potentially if it is the exact same sensor as the A7 Mark IV. It's going to have rolling shutter issues, and it doesn't do native 4K 60. I don't know. I don't understand what the benefit is.
These are rumors.
Well, true. Okay, we'll wait and see.
So, for me, this reminds me of the arguments I was seeing on the internet and on YouTube when the Fujifilm GFX 100 RF was just a rumor. People were losing their shit over it. They were arguing. They were saying, "Oh, but it's going to have this." No, it's not going to have this.
I know the fools. They were like, "Oh, it's going to have no IBIS and an f4 lens." But then look what happened. Oh no, hang on. No, I couldn't help it. But no, you're right. People get all riled up when it's not even out yet.
Yeah, and I'm seeing this more and more. You know, in the gaming world, because I'm a gamer in my spare time. See a lot of it there too. Emerging tech tends to get people agitated for what's next, and they act as though they know what's going to happen with it. It's really interesting to watch. It's a interesting social dichotomy. Oh, how's that for a word? Write that down.
Yeah. What Bruce is, words of wisdom as well. Bruce echoes what you're saying. I'm not sure why it would exist, but it's best not to think about it until it's announced, if it is announced. Yeah, good point. Yeah. There's probably no. I just don't understand. It's sort of the rumors flooded out all at once, as if someone like a press release had come out about it.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's weird. Anyway.
The other thing that I found, because I used to do a lot of news article writing for a camera website, is that once one rumor site gets onto it, they all have to mirror it because they want to stay relevant. They want to get the clicks on their site. And they're just hoping someone finds their site before the original site that posted it. So often there's a lot of copy and paste. So it's an interesting situation. But yeah, I think Bruce's words are the best. Is let's just wait and see. Although that just completely crushes our news and rumor site section.
We'll keep doing it.
All right. What else we got?
We'll keep echoing these rumors and then being like, but they're just rumors. So we've got, I just unshared it. I've got a couple of nice Canon rumors. There's been a little bit floating around from Canon. This one's got me most excited. Well, I can't remember if I told you this or not. I did an entire. Speaking of those mountain bike shoots that we were talking about before, I did one of those on Wednesday last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I used I don't know where it is. I used the RF 28-70 f2.8 STM lens, which is a non-pro 2.8 lens.
Yep. And
I used it for the entire shoot, hybrid photo video. Didn't take the lens off. I took my wide just in case, and I actually had this was in a lighter bag, a small bag. Actually, here's the lens here. So this bag I got, that's how much gear space it has in it. You can use my head for a reference. That's the lens there, the RF 28-70 2.8. It's really, really light for a 2.8 full frame lens. And the camera and another lens fit in there. And I had my other bits and pieces, mics and stuff like that. And then the whole top was actually still open and free just for mountain bike gear. Very, very small bag compared to what I normally ride with. Not that I go over the top with gear. It's pretty run and gun. So I had my whole other bag packed in the van. Just
hang on. Roll back a little minute. Did I just hear you say you never go over top with gear, or just on that occasion?
When I'm mountain bike shooting, compared to what other people would probably take on shoots like that, I'm pretty lean and mean, particularly shooting video, because, you know, a lot of people shooting video maybe bring an external monitor. They'd have a video camera in a cage. They might bring I don't do any of that stuff. I just like shaky, crappy footage, raw dog. That's a cool new video thing we should talk about, because everyone likes to have all the extra stuff bolted to the camera. It's like raw dog and video. It's just the camera as it comes.
Not even a lens, just open the shutter, open the sensor.
And you just
let it take it all in.
You use this as the aperture, and you just try and make it really small. Anyway,
or one of those little Oreo cookie lenses. I kind of want to try one.
Oh, I don't. Anyway.
So what do you think about this?
So this was the thing. I went on this shoot and I was like, I shot the whole thing at 28-70, which is a fairly limiting focal length for trying to get a variety of shots for mountain biking. But I've done that kind of stuff before. Sometimes I've shot it with just primes and things. I like being limited. But generally with mountain biking, you do want the ability to do some telephoto, depending on what you're shooting, and then same with super wide, out to 15 or 16 mil. And I thought, man, if they made a lighter weight 2.8, because the issue is Canon's longer 70-200s are the most compact on the market currently. Yep. And I've got the 70-200 2.8. Compared to what they used to be, it's insanely compact. But the 70-200 f4 is even more compact. It's almost the size of this when it's this 24-105, the same as the 70-200 f4, pretty much in the size of it. But I'm always fighting for light with the long lenses shooting action. So I like to have 2.8. And then I saw this rumor, RF 70-150 2.8 IS STM lens might complete the trilogy sometime later this year. So you would then have the 16-28 2.8, the 28-70 2.8, and then this 70-150 2.8. And if it was like between 500 and 600 grams, nice and compact, it would be awesome. Awesome. It would be a beautiful little kit of lenses that are cheaper than L series primes. That's why I don't know why this has got the red ring around it, because it won't have one of those in that little picture they've made.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? They chose that.
Yeah, just to tease people. But I think it would be really good, and I'm glad Canon are doing it, and I hope it's true. I hope this rumor is true.
So wasn't it a couple of weeks ago that Sony brought out was it a 50-150? Was that an f2.8 or an f2?
No, that was an f2. That was like game changer in the other direction. Just pure image quality and sharp f2, sort of supposed to be like a mega wedding portrait or I guess indoor sports lens maybe. But yeah.
But there's no reason why this couldn't be used for the same applications.
I mean, it could be, but it's the other end of the spectrum in terms of like it's going to be. This is sort of heading further away from pro and more towards very, very compact. But I found the autofocus to be great. It maybe wasn't quite what an L lens is, but I had very few misses. It was very good. My experience.
But maybe this sort of
STM
thing
lines
is the future of pro grade lenses, that they're going to get smaller. They may not be as premium body wise, but image quality and
I like that they're going. I like that they're going both directions. I think they need to satisfy both ends of the spectrum, because these sort of lenses stop me from considering, a Fujifilm X series or something like that to be more compact for travel or whatever. It helps keep me in the Canon ecosystem for that side of things, and it also tricks some people that have got too many lenses into buying one of each. I'll have the compact one and I'll have the Mega Pro. And I think that they've often done it with primes. They've done it. I'm trying to think of good examples. This stuff's been done before, but the problem is usually the sacrifice is on the light gathering of the lens or just the overall quality. They often they're just cheap. They'll go, "Oh, we'll make a really cheap lens and we'll make our pro lenses." But this is it's not cheap. They're a couple of $1,000. As opposed to the L version being $3,000 to $4,000. So they're cheaper, but they're not cheap.
Yeah.
They don't sacrifice light gathering. What they're sacrificing is probably a little bit of the robustness of the build, although they're still weather sealed. They've got the twisty lock, so you have to twist to engage the lens. Here it doesn't work. You have to twist it out to there, so that kind of sucks, but I'm getting used to it.
Yeah.
I told Canon they need to tweak it so that when you twist it to engage, the camera wakes up, and when you twist it off, the camera sleeps. I don't know why you wouldn't have it do that. Makes total sense to me, especially for a mirrorless, where the screens are awake and stuff. Anyway, so I'm getting used to that. So that's one of the sacrifices, and then I'm guessing the other sacrifices are just the STM focusing versus their fastest focusing motors in the L series. But honestly, I had no problem with focus. So
yeah. So basically, it's more of an enthusiast level.
Yep.
Offering this if they bring this out, this trilogy that.
If I was at a camera store, I'd be pushing people into this if they're not if they don't come in knowing like I want, this L lens for this specific use case. If there was the option, I would be anyone that's sort of thinking I want a 24-70 2.8 L. I would be saying just save some money and buy this and get another, get something to go with it if you really want to spend $3 or $4 grand. Get yourself another focal length or a prime or something else.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Greg Carrick says, Justin, do you prefer RF or EF lenses? Overall, the RF lenses are better quality, for sure. And I thought I was going to run a hybrid of adapted and non-adapted lenses when I first switched to Canon mirrorless. And I very quickly switched everything to RF. Just one, because I hate using adapters when I'm working quickly. And two, the quality has stepped forward, I think, with them being able to use the space that's allowed on the RF mount. The designs have gotten better, both optically and they're more compact and a ton of other things. So them's the benefits.
Very cool.
Anyway, that was the rumor that I'm excited for. There's also a few there's rumors from Canon about the R6 Mark III coming soon, and R7 Mark II coming soon. And by soon, I mean sometime between now and the end of the year, but who knows? None of the specs are really firmed up that are worth talking about. And there's a few big white lenses apparently coming as well. There's been talk of a 150 to 600 5.6, which would be pretty cool. And then also something really big. But anyway, just I spend a bit more time on the Canon websites than any of the other ones.
No, that's fair. And often those rumor sites, which I follow them too, you'll see them drop or find and publish new patents that camera brands, they have to put out. They have to make those patents publicly accessible somehow through the patent process. I don't understand it fully, but often you'll see the patents for these lenses and they'll be guessing and slowly they'll fit the patent into a lens that eventually gets announced. So it's sometimes those rumor sites, whilst they're often full of junk, repetitive junk, especially if you go from one to the other, it's almost like watching a carbon copy.
I think that what I
certainly get to see a bit of history.
Oh yeah, as to how it
the development process. Yeah.
What I've found is it seems to be that there's some rumor sites that seem to put, I don't know if they put more work in or if they've got better contacts or something like that. There's some that seem to have more, dare I say it, integrity, and also more, maybe that's a strong word. We'll see. Anyway, there's some that seem more genuine, and then there's some that seem like they copy every rumor they find on the internet kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it seems like the guys behind Canon rumors are pretty solid. They're photographers. Everyone's doing this stuff's probably a photographer, but you see them pop up on podcasts and things. They talk about the gear that they shoot with and that kind of thing. And they often give it like a level of rumor. I think they have a 1, 2, and 3, CR1, CR2, CR3 as to like, where do we put this rumor? And if it's so they're like, I can't remember which way it goes, but say if it's a rumor that they're like, look, someone sent us this, we don't know them. It seems like it's plausible, but like it's worth us printing it, but we have no confidence other than that. And they'll give that like CR3. And then if it's a CR1, they're basically like, hey, we're pretty sure this is what's coming out soon. Yeah. And they put that in there. So anyway.
That's cool. Now, speaking of non-rumors, can we talk about Yashica? Or are we going to leave that till later?
No, it's a great time to talk about Yashica. It's a good way to segue into our next. Oh, I just unshared my screen. Sorry, guys. I'm falling apart.
Play the sound.
All right.
So Justin,
if you go to yashica.info, which is different to the actual Yashica website, you'll find this. Yashica FXD, digital film simulation camera, analog dreams.
Very familiar.
Digital wings.
Wow.
Which
they used AI to write that.
Yes. This this is crossing us from the news and rumors, because it is the news and rumors, into our next segment that we're calling
Cosplay Cameras. So what is cosplay cameras?
Seems to be a thing. It seems to be a thing that now cameras are progressing from design to do with the usability of the camera, the aesthetics of the camera, ergonomics, size and shape, all of that sort of stuff. Obviously, image quality. But we seem to be getting features now that are not necessarily imperative to the way the camera operates, but they give you a sort of feel like these levers, this winding lever. That
you got a real problem with the lever, don't you?
I do. I don't have an issue with. I need to be careful how I say this because I don't want to put my thoughts across incorrectly. I don't think anyone shouldn't make these products. Let me just put that out there. I'm cool as with any of these camera brands making any product and going for it. What's interesting is just we seem to be getting a manual film advance lever, and this is the second camera, and maybe there's more that I don't actually know about, where they've got control inputs that don't actually do anything. Like they're added to a function, but they're not there to do anything. They actually slow you down or whatever. Yeah. And maybe that's
the manual lever can be replaced by a press of a button.
Exactly. So I don't know. Are we kind of cosplaying a bit with photography? Are we LARPing? Are we adding things to the process that don't function in any way? And what I want to know from the chat, if you guys are still listening, have we seen this in any products before in the camera industry? Any successful products or unsuccessful products where they've added things to the features and ergonomics that don't that aren't optimized around shooting or image quality or anything like that? So Bruce is saying it's like a manual gear stick in cars. So no, it's like a manual gear stick in an electric car that doesn't do anything.
Yep.
Other than make the engine slow down for a second and then speed up again. You know what I mean? Yep. So it's like you could just accelerate all the way up to 100 k's an hour, but in your electric car, there's a manual gear stick and an electronic programming that it just limits the throttle for a second and makes you pull the gear stick to simulate the feel of driving a manual car.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a user experience feature, but not anything to do with photography itself. And I'm just interested to know what everyone thinks about that.
Yeah. So the reason, just before we jump to some comments, because there's some great comments coming through, we called it cosplay cameras because we are seeing these sorts of features. We talked about it last Friday. Was it we had a chat? Yeah, about the Fujifilm X-Half, which also has a winding lever that advances a digital film or a digital film replication process in camera. So what Fujifilm did with the X-Half, just as a recap, is you can treat it like a normal digital mirrorless camera. or you can slip it into film camera mode. And in film camera mode, the rear LCD becomes a kind of a digital representation of like an old retro kind of film camera, I guess, one that had an LCD, and it prevents you from viewing your images that you take. So you've got to be very mindful and in the moment and take your shots. You can only see those, and you can select how many frames, like from an old school 35mm film, roll of film. Once you've shot that, you then download your images to the Fujifilm X-Half app, and that's the only way that you can see them, is to download them to this app, and the app goes through a quasi processing and development and provides you with basically a contact sheet and the ability to view all your images. So they're cosplaying the camera as a film camera, and it's a replication process that they've created. So with this Yashica, which interestingly, I think they announced the day after the Fuji X-Half.
Yeah, it was clearly
something was very
and
quick.
they've announced that a Kickstarter is coming soon.
Yeah.
So like it's not even a Kickstarter, it's a Kickstarter launching soon, which means basically they were in the works with this and trying to do it, and then they saw the X-Half get released and they were like, let's jump on it. Let's jump on the hype train that Fuji have done a lot of work to build, obviously.
Yeah. They already had development potentially. And now they've gone, oh shit, we better get this out there. Otherwise everyone's just going to be talking about Fuji X-Half and we won't get a look in. Interestingly, the last couple of Yashicas that have come out, I don't know that they were, you'd call them great cameras. They were more point and shoot. I think there was the City 100 and the City 300. By all accounts,
were they the ones with the rolls, with the fake film rolls?
No. These were just digital point and shoots.
Okay.
It wasn't. They didn't do very well. People couldn't get them. They didn't know how to. Like, it was weird how you could buy them. Often they were broken when they arrived, faulty, like really poor quality, poor quality stuff. So again, kind of what's that term they use in grand designs? A pastiche of retro aesthetic camera design applied to digital sensibilities. How's that? I'm going to write that down.
Nice. Write that down. Take a note.
Oh, we're recording. Let's jump to some comments.
All right. Well, Paul Henderson says, Yashica put their name to various manufacturers and get some fairly ordinary results from what I've seen. Okay, so potentially you're saying that maybe that someone else has developed this. Seems like maybe it's a Yashica product. I'm sure that who knows who's making it or whatever, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Yashica owns Yashica anymore.
Oh, okay.
I don't think the original company exists. I'm fairly sure they went under.
Oh, and someone
might be wrong.
Purchased or licenses the name to then release products. Yeah,
I think that's what happened. It's kind of like, how Kodak went through all those different owners, and now you can buy all sorts of Kodak cameras. Thank you, Greg Carrick. I am correct.
Nev Clark says tech has plateaued, so now we get gimmicks being introduced to keep us buying. We need difference for these cameras to sell, ? It's
an interesting point, Nev.
It is an interesting point. I don't think it's true, because I don't think they're focused on people that have any interest in tech, in terms of like, these cameras aren't to try and get us to buy them, I don't think. So they're trying to get they seem like they're almost grown-up toys. Like, as in toys for 20-year-olds and maybe even 30-year-olds to buy, that have a feel, but not necessarily. So I don't know if it's to do with the tech being plateaued.
I think it's more that they're trying to expand the market. They see a bunch of people walking around taking photos and video on their phones, and the more people they can get to keep their phones in their pockets and to buy a camera, the better it is for them in the long run, obviously, and the industry, and for us, because the more people that are buying cameras and spending money on cameras, the more that brands have to invest in newer and funkier technology. It is interesting though, because it's like how vinyl has enjoyed yet another revival. Sasha and I have started collecting vinyls. We've got, maybe 30 vinyls now for our collection.
Mm-hmm.
We have, Apple everything, and Apple. What are the pods, the audio pods that you set up in your
home
got
pod?
them in the home pods. We've got a couple of those in the lounge, and they play beautiful music. And it's so easy to say, hey, Siri, whatever. But we love playing vinyls because it's a different experience.
But again, the equivalent of this would be like buying an Apple HomePod that you have to switch on, and a thing turns around on top, and you've got to wipe the dust off it. Otherwise, it'll simulate crackle through the speaker, and then you've got to put the needle on the right spot to play a track through your HomePod, and it's all digital anyway. You know what I mean? That's kind of what this is like, as opposed to vinyl is like shooting film on an old film camera or a nice new film camera. Like,
that's true.
You can buy an old record player, you can buy a new record player, but it has its own advantages with vinyl, especially when the has been recorded specifically to be released on vinyl. So that's kind of the difference. Is it doesn't seem to add anything other than, I guess, the feel of the process, a simulated feel to a process, and that's it.
My mother would say it's mutton dressed up as lamb.
Yeah, but it's like digital mutton. And it's actually just like a paste that's made from vegetables. Yeah,
there's no meat.
Bruce Moyle says, it's a gimmick to be different. Some people enjoy just being different. Greg Carrick says, modern Yashicas are ya crap.
Yep.
Now, this is interesting. Tony, get off my digital lawn. What's up, Tony? Thanks for joining us. Says, why does everyone make cameras that look really retro, but no one seems to go the other way and make something crazy futuristic? Is it just Sigma BF is probably one of the first cameras that's tried to do that, really? And it's not insanely futuristic, but it certainly is compared to what's out there. Has anyone else had a crack at it?
That camera, Sigma in the past have done that, didn't they? They did those weird
Foveons.
They've done it before.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Sigma is probably one of the few. So yeah, it's a good point. There's so much history with photography. It's like classic cars and stuff. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be a big push in any kind of futuristic direction.
And I think that's an important point, that there is a lot of history in photography. And so camera brands are trying to harness that to entice new photographers with these cheaper, less effective systems. We all heard last week about my X-Half thoughts. So much potential missed.
Yeah.
Because it's just not quite there. It's not quite enough, I don't think. And I've reviewed every Fuji camera, pretty much every Fuji camera, I think now. Almost every Fuji camera that exists, and it just misses the mark. Which is interesting because what Fuji are trying to do are trying to entice a newer, younger audience with the X-Half by making it more about the history of photography, but in doing so, they're missing the mark on what it actually should achieve.
Yes,
from a technical standpoint.
I think so, and I think so. I listened to a bit of content after we did our X-Half show. Because I was like, well, I felt pretty strongly about where we stand with it. Me as an outsider looking in that hasn't actually been able to use it yet, and you as someone that fully reviewed it and a Fuji fanboy, as it says below. So Fuji, if you're listening, we love all of your products except one. And
I don't dislike it. Like I said, I think it's a brave and potentially genius move to harness a new market, but it just doesn't quite cut the mustard.
I mean, it's obviously something that is burbling in the industry when you see Yashica put one out to try and capitalize on the same thing. So it's like, how much of these cosplay cameras are we going to see over the coming years? I don't know. And it's cool that Fujifilm are taking a swing at it, but I listened to some other content. I looked at some other content, Petapixel review versus the Petapixel podcast. You got a bit more candid opinions on the podcast than you did on the review itself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they were being disingenuous in the review. It was probably just a little bit more filtered. Obviously, glossed over. It just didn't. They didn't until the very end, and then the very end was still. In their written review, it still says down the bottom, "Should I buy it? Yes." But as long as you like, what it's for and you like it or whatever. But yeah, in the podcast, they were a little bit more candid about their thoughts about some of the limitations of the camera, and also the fact that the feel that they were going for, this analog feel, misses the mark in some spots, particularly with that winder. You've got this winder, film advance lever, I keep saying winder, to use, but it doesn't feel like awesome to use. Like a film camera. So, which is obviously, that's going to be a very tricky thing to simulate. That mechanical feeling of winding film and then hitting the end of the roll and all that kind of stuff is very tricky to do. But it missed the mark in a few spots there. He said it pulled him out of the experience. The podcast that kind of got me a little riled up. There's a video. I don't
think I've ever seen you riled.
There's a videographer.
Not much makes you riled.
Not much makes me riled. He's a cinematographer, and he's got a very cool YouTube channel, and he shoots amazing video. His name's Cam Mackey. He's definitely got a bit of a hipster vibe going on, a bit of a cowboy hipster thing. I'm not quite sure what it's way cooler than anything I could imagine ever wearing. And he does great work. But he did like an hour and a half live stream that was basically like gearheads have ruined photography, and anyone that doesn't get the Fujifilm X-Half isn't thinking, doesn't have the kind of the words that come out of his, I'm paraphrasing, but it was kind of like their brain isn't big enough to understand that it's not just about image quality. And that got me riled up a little bit, because I was like, yeah, but it's a $1,350 camera, and you're saying that image quality doesn't matter, and it does matter. And and we're not saying the camera shouldn't exist or anything, or that people shouldn't buy it. If you love it, buy it, enjoy it.
Yeah,
but
if it gets you out and about with a camera in hand, looking at the world, creating images, have at it.
And I think Nev Clark's kind of summed up the thoughts here, which is the X-Half was a great idea. I agree, it just needed a smidgen more tech inside it. And that's kind of it. And so this guy, Cam Mackey, said, people don't get it. Fujifilm's Instax line is all about fun, and it's not about image quality, and it's about, getting out and using the camera and taking photos and having fun. And that's what this X-Half is. And it's like, yeah, their dearest Instax camera in Australia is what, like $600, $700? Yeah. The Instax Evo Wide. And it instantly prints the photos and is digital, and it's less than half the price of this thing. And the image quality is probably not massively different. I'm sure the X-Half is quite a bit better, being a bigger sensor and stuff like that. But like, there's this is the, would you say that within the recent Fujifilm history, the X-Half has the worst image quality by far?
Oh yeah.
Of an X series camera, not as Instax, because they're marketed as two different lines. And it's on the website with all the X series cameras. And it sits there,
which is interesting, because when they first announced it, they told us in the pre-briefing, this is while it was still under embargo, that this camera will sit aside from GFX and X series. It's a new entry, almost like it's a new series or a standalone series, but they've parked it right in there with X series gear on global and regional websites. Yeah. And so people are going to compare apples with apples. Yeah. If you're determined to get yourself a Fujifilm camera because you see the retro aesthetic and you've heard good things and they're compact and lightweight and all of that, and you go to the Fuji X website, you're going to see a range of cameras that stand out significantly better. The problem that I have, I think, is that much of Fujifilm's marketing is talking it up like it's an X series camera.
That's I think the issue,
including the outcomes of it. Especially, well, not video. No one wants to talk about the video performance of it because it doesn't tick any boxes in video at all.
It doesn't even tick half a box. It's not even X-Half.
There are no boxes
of video.
No boxes. But
So
from stills images, yes, it takes photos. It takes good photos, but it doesn't take anything comparable to any of the other X series cameras, even older cameras.
yeah, and so then the problem is, like Fujifilm could have just, I know it wouldn't have got the hype, but I honestly think it might have sold better. Either give us a bigger sensor or a brighter aperture lens. Give us an f2 lens or something, maybe even a bit more. Nail that image quality. Ditch the film advance lever. Ditch the hot shoe that does nothing. Or maybe the fake hot shoe, cosplay hot shoe. To give us a little bit more image quality and stuff. And maybe you could have pushed the price even a touch more. Maybe it could have been a $1,700 camera if you gave it that X series level image quality. Maybe not with a full, like an APS-C sensor. Maybe it's still some sort of smaller sensor. Yeah. But then it wouldn't have gotten the hype that it did if it didn't have the vertical half frame thing and all that sort of stuff, because it's so different. So I'm not telling them how to launch products. They're probably going to sell a bazillion of these, but it's just, I think they left some stuff on the table with image quality and price.
The word is that the interest for it is quite high.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I think, and I don't know that I've actually thought of this before, but maybe Fujifilm's intention was for image quality to be just okay. Well, that they wanted it to replicate a half sensor film image in terms of resolution, because a half a 35 millimeter frame, like with the Pentax 17, people said the image quality is great, the resolution's not excellent, but it's good. Maybe they intentionally dumbed it down a little, because it was giving people an authentic Fujica half 35mm film camera experience, that you were getting these sort of half good images.
Is that why they went for almost HD video? Because that's similar to the video that they got out of the Fujica half.
Yeah, exactly why. They should have ditched video. I don't know why they did.
I don't know. Let's jump to some comments. Getting back to, let's go all the way back. Bruce says Lytro had a crack at making a futuristic camera. We're just looping way back. But then they got killed by their own greed. I don't know much about the Lytro story. We should dig into that one day. When they were talking about me getting mad,
what did Tony say?
Tony says, I can do it, Greg. Just let me know when you want to see him mad. Tony can try and make me mad. And Nev Clark says, I'm a counsellor, haha, and I get more riled up than Justin.
Yeah, that's true. I've never seen him lose his cool.
No, it's not something I really do. This is me riled up. Yeah. Rick Nelson says, is this the brand seeing the demand for film and the cameras and cameras like the Canon G7X or Kodak FZ45, so they blend them and get a digital film camera to try and steer the trend, maybe? I guess it is that. The trend. Yeah, it's like they see that. They see that and they want to capitalize on it. And there is something there with this cosplay camera film thing that will get flashed out, I think. And I just think when you look at it, so you look at the X series cameras and you look at this new line that they've got of the X100, an absolute icon. Everyone loves it because the image quality is great and the usability is great.
Always has been.
Always has been. GFX 100 RF, controversial, but the image quality is indisputably great. Doesn't have IBIS, therefore, image quality is great, usability great. X-Half caps off that series of 3 cameras of top, middle, and now entry level, and image quality could be in that package, could have been better, is better in much smaller cameras, including, you said, Greg, the boys from Petapixel said on their review and podcast, not as good as a smartphone. And that's where it's like it doesn't quite fit into the mold of that line. Flip over to the Instax line. Yeah, maybe it could have been the flagship of the Instax line. And that reminds me. So this was the only camera I could think of in modern era that has something that is like what we're calling these cosplay features, where it's like it's a feel feature that doesn't really do anything. And that's is there a winder on the Instax Evo Wide?
Yes.
Is it a winder? It's like
but it's like you're actually winding the film backwards.
Yeah, but does it do anything, or is it just a digital input that tells the thing to print the photo out
print.
Or something?
Yeah, it's to tell it to print.
But it doesn't manually actually wind anything. It just it's like tells
triggers
it to wind
system.
it. Yeah. So it's actually the first thing that I can think of that has, other than Yashica's loadable plastic film rolls. I don't know. Greg Carrick says 3 men and an elephant thinks the X-Half lens is brilliant. He's probably wrong. I would say. I don't know. Do you think it's brilliant, Greg?
He just likes the sound of his own voice.
He does.
I swear to God.
Says 2 podcasts.
He uses so many big words. I never use big words. What was that word I used before? Yeah, dichotomy.
No, you said one that started with P. It was like can't remember.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's move on from that. But
Rick Nelson says, "Do you think the X-Half is actually worse than film in terms of image quality? And are you talking half film? Well, I guess here's the question: can someone that owns a Pentax 17 do a test? Do a side by side, head to head test? We'll get some decent film scans done, and let's see which one looks better. That'd be cool.
That would be very cool.
It's about as close as we can get as a side by side comparison. Someone should do that. We should do that.
We should do that. We'll get onto that.
You sent the camera back already?
The X-Half, yeah. But I can get it again.
Yeah. No, don't tell them why.
Unless they've watched our podcast.
Yeah, that's right. We love you, Fujifilm. We really do.
And he never heard from Fujifilm again.
Yeah. And Rick also says, why not call it the digital quick snap and seal it in a different category, pairing it with the throwaway quick snap? What's a quick snap? Throwaway quick snap?
That's their disposables.
Oh, right.
So one of the things that Fuji boasted, though, in the I think it's in their new marketing material, is that it uses the same. They didn't say the same lens, but the same focal distance as their quick snap cameras, and they tried to use that as a bit of a selling point. Again, trying to tie it back to, we already use this in a film camera, this focal range. We're going to put it in this new quasi film camera. Like, again, it's tying it. It's a weird marketing plug to say that the lens is the same as a throwaway disposable. It's not the actual same lens, but the focal range. It's a really weird marketing push. But again, I think they're trying to pull back, or they throw over to, look, it has some film camera heritage kind of thing. You know, we took the same plastic crappy lens out of a quick snap, measured it, and replicated it. Yeah. Like, it doesn't feel premium in any way. To take that stance.
Other thing I forgot that I think they should have done to make this camera really the entry level to that line of Fujifilm iconic fixed lens compact cameras. The OVF viewfinder, that's got zero info in it, does it?
Yeah, it's just what is it? It's a Galilean. It's just a see-through. It's a vertical, and it's only, I think it's only 90% of the actual coverage of the lens. So it's like a quick snap, which has really shit lens coverage. Yeah. Like, it doesn't match up very well.
Exactly. So it is closer to an Instax. Like, that's what Instaxes are like. You're looking through this little window, and then the photo is going to be something kind of like that. Doesn't give you any of your settings or anything like that. No light meter.
No.
I think
glass.
and I think that so we all wanted maybe that. So like a sensor, like a, micro four thirds or one, at least, maybe a bit bigger than what it is. But if it is what it is, at least a decent lens on it that lets in a lot more light, and then a great manual shooting experience. Yeah, it wouldn't have got the TikTokers and stuff like that, but you could have put a top series Instax in maybe for that. Yeah. And then put this camera in at a few $100s dearer, but with great image quality, a great lens, and a better experience for a photographer, probably still would have sold truckloads of them.
Look, having said all of this and expressing my, it wasn't dissatisfaction for the product. In fact, in my review, I said that this is a mixture of genius and gimmick. There's a lot to be, there's a lot for Fujifilm to be proud of. We talked about this on Friday. They've opened their own envelope and pushed their own boundary. They're targeting newer markets, and they're taking brave steps to try and see what else can they do with camera technology. And I think that should be applauded, most definitely. The biggest problem I have with the X-Half is that, okay, leave the image quality, leave everything the way it is and drop it by $400. Yeah. Then it's an enticing offer. Yeah. At $1,350, it is not an enticing offer, because for $1,450, depending on which store you go to, you can get the XM5, which is a 26 megapixel APS-C, X processor 5. It's got the fastest autofocus performance of any Fuji camera I've ever shot with. It's a pocketable beast that comes with a shitty kit lens, but it gives you an open lens format to then expand your lens range later.
Yeah.
It's not a fixed lens. I know it's we're not comparing apples with apples necessarily.
No.
But when from a price point versus what you get for it, the X-Half is overpriced.
Yeah. Yeah. So completely different target market and that kind of stuff. Yeah. And
Rick Nelson, hang on. Oh, I love you, Rick. Love you, Rick. They need to make the next generation of the X70 already. Give us a little proper compact manual Fuji magic again. Yes, and yes. The Fuji X. I mean, if you search Fujifilm X70, a picture of me will pop up first because I rant about it so much. But it is a brilliant little compact camera, and they tried to do a remake. I think it was an XF15 or an XF10, and it apparently had the same processor and lens, I think, but it just fell short. It was plasticky, and they painted it in rose gold, and they were targeting young women with it, which is fine. They saw a market and, charged at it. But the X70, they need to make another one of those. I would rather have seen them put in that sort of camera.
Yeah. And look, it will remain to be seen whether this is a genius move that's going to bring people into the Fujifilm ecosystem that are going to progress into wanting to have actual cameras instead of a cosplay camera. The other thing though, so what happens when these people sort of they buy this camera, they have a great time with it, they learn about photography, and then they're like, all right, I want to upgrade. I want to get, a camera with some different lenses or whatever. I want to improve the image quality because this looks like my phone. And they go into a camera shop, and the camera shop's like, yeah, well, you've already had a Fujifilm, so what about this, XT5 or whatever? No.
Got a new Yashica.
What about this XT5? And they're like, where's the film advance lever? Where's the features that you've given me in my cosplay camera that I really liked? Why am I missing out on that stuff? And the camera person's going to be like, because this is a grown-ups camera. This is for actual photographers. It's
like being raised on breast milk, and then someone suddenly saying, from now on, you can only have bottles. Am I wrong?
What?
They take away the joy of it all.
I don't know.
I'm very tired. I'm often medicated. Or not.
Well, all right. Anyway, let's cap off this because it's almost time to go, and we've got 2 more segments, and we're definitely not getting to the last one. So let's cap off the cosplay thing. The only camera that I can think of that gets this kind of so we've had a lot of vintage inspired cameras. We've got this OM3 that we're about to talk about. That went sideways. It sure did go sideways, Bruce. We've got Nikon's various vintage inspired cameras. What was it called? I'm losing the plot. ZF.
ZFC or something.
Yeah.
ZF, yeah.
And that sort of stuff. So they're designed to look vintage, have more of a feel like, all of Fujifilm's line arguably has that DNA in their design other than the XH2 and that kind of thing. Yeah. But they've got that DNA of manual dials, great sort of feeling input that has a retro aesthetic, but all based around the usability of the camera. Every dial does something. It does what it's an input to the camera.
Yeah, it's not cosplay.
It's not cosplay, but is there any other brand? You know, Leica does the M11D. What's it called? No. M11D? The one with no screen? The various P? MDP? MPD? Anyway, Leica's got their whole series of digital cameras that have no LCD screen, digital rangefinders. Is that a cosplay camera? You know, is it cosplaying as a film camera because it's got no screen? I don't think so.
But aren't Leicas just average cameras dressed up to be expensive?
Apparently. Except that, you know, you shoot with one, you're like, fuck, the image quality's amazing. You know, you don't shoot with one, you're like, oh, a smartphone would be better. You know, like that's not really how they roll. But yeah, so I don't know. I really think this is the first time that in pushing into what we would consider a photography camera, not an Instax or something like that. This is really, or a Yashica Y35 or whatever. This is the first time that we've seen features added that really serve no purpose.
Yep.
I don't
Seems
know.
that way, doesn't
Correct
it?
me if I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments below or send me an email. You know, if you want to get into the mailbox, the week in review, just email me, justin@luckystraps.com.au.
Yeah.
You know, send me an
but
email.
Use code
Tell
Greg
me.
in the shop.
Yeah, well, that's different. Yeah, where's Canon's A1-RF? Where's their vintage camera? They'll never do it.
They could bring us some crackers, couldn't they?
They could, but they won't. They're too focused on just getting really, really good sort of modern cameras out. But I would like to see some interesting stuff come out of them.
Yeah.
I think they could.
Even their latest, like the Z, what was it? The ZV that just came out. What was that?
The V1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The vlogging camera. Like that is a slick piece of kit.
I want to try and get one of them to review. I actually think that will be Yelena's new camera. I just want to review it first. It's got a bigger sensor. It's got a really good feel. I just need to play with it first and see if it's going to do the job. But I really like that camera.
List.
But honestly, like it's slick. I would probably prefer if it had a more of a Fujifilm look to it. Honestly, I would probably prefer a Leica or that, like something a bit more aesthetic rather than the standard kind of Canon look.
Yep.
But it's a really good camera. So
yeah, it's hard to argue.
Yeah, I agree, Bruce. Missing features doesn't make a cosplay camera. That's what I think. That's the discerning difference there, where it's like Leica decided to omit an LCD to give you a film experience, as opposed to adding a lever that doesn't do anything. Well, I know it does. I keep saying it doesn't do anything. It does what a digital button push could do. Yeah. I know they've programmed it to do functional things throughout the shooting experience, but it's not. It's not something that you've just added for a tactile feel.
And if you could program it, if it was customizable, and you could go actually make it so that when I wind this, it activates eye autofocus, or something you don't want to dive into a menu for.
So it just becomes kind of a different button or whatever, a different lever,
a different input mechanism,
customizable lever.
Because
we
it's
don't
not
need
even
to,
that.
Yeah.
I don't
know. Anyway, but maybe we're wrong. We might be just tech heads that don't understand creativity and fun and art.
No. We are boring. OM3 impressions.
Yeah. Look at this. OM System sent me the
speak of the devil.
Sent me the OM3. That's kind of cool to test. So we're going to do an actual camera review. It'll be, I guess it's you've done many camera reviews, but this will be kind of my first camera review. And I think,
I'll hold your hand.
It's equal parts stressful and exciting. But I just wanted to give my first impressions of this camera because I unboxed it. I had a bit of a play around with it over the weekend. Micro does mean micro. That it's the lens and everything, it's so teeny compared to Canon stuff.
Yeah.
It's so small. So that's a 17mm lens, which is like a 35mm equivalent, f1.8. Well, I thought this was interesting. This is their 50mm 1.8. And then that's the nifty 50 Canon. And even the lens caps are like, the rear lens cap, they're just so different. And it's obviously, I've never really shot with any smaller systems. I've been on full frame since I upgraded from my 60D Canon years ago. And you do start to forget that everything's just a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. And then when you go back to something like Micro Four Thirds, you're like, wow, everything's tiny. Everything feels little. It's like, the lens cap is just it's teeny. Everything fits in nowhere. So that was my.
I'm glad they sent you some extra lenses too.
Extra lenses.
Yeah.
What?
Or an extra lens.
Oh no, I've got more.
Oh, how many did they send you?
They sent me all of them. I said, "Can I have all of them?" They said, "Yeah, sure." No, they sent me. So they sent me a the 50mm equivalent. I was really keen for that because I want to do some comparisons with my full frame 50s because I shoot with them all the time. This is a 12 to 45 f4. It is also tiny.
Yeah, it's like a Fuji lens. It's even smaller than Fuji lenses.
That's what I'm interested to see what you think of all this stuff because you're used to tiny lenses, but these are even a little tinier, I think. And this is a 40 to 150, which is also tiny. Yep. Interestingly, it has that same as the Canon, my new Canon lenses. Like you lock it out, so that's like stowed, and then that's at 40mm, so that's usable. But then it doesn't extend anymore to go 40 to 150.
How bizarre!
How bizarre! Kind of like
so it's just moving everything internally, but it still needed that extra room to do it.
Yeah. Bruce Moyle coming in hot. It's cosplaying as an OM1. That is something that we do want to talk about. But that's what's interesting is it's a vintage inspired camera that has some, physical dials and stuff added to it, but they all kind of have functions. So is it the same thing? Is it different? Is this a cosplay camera or is this just a retro inspired camera?
Like the Nikon.
Yeah, I don't know. Has all the modern features. Yeah, like the Nikon ZF. First impressions of the image quality. Very, very first impressions because I haven't actually used it for much other than just kicking around on the weekend. Took some photos of the nephews using their rock crawlers and stuff, which is pretty fun.
Oh, yeah, you talked about that.
Yeah, yep. I think you'd enjoy it, Greg. You might have to come and rock crawl with me one day.
All right, sure. Why not?
And first impressions are the image quality is better than I thought. I think, again, I'd built up in my head how much of a difference there would be between full frame and Micro Four Thirds. But that being said, I haven't had a chance to test high ISO. It's mainly been low ISO, which is obviously going to have a much greater difference as we creep into the high ISOs.
Yep. One thing I'll be interested to see your experience, and anyone in the chat who may have experienced this, having gone to BFOP, the Bright Festival of Photography here in Victoria, but also doing talks at camera clubs and running street walks, just how many people I've come across that have moved away from bigger, full frame, big, heavy setups, especially people that are either semi-retired or retired, and they drop their big systems and go to OM because of the size and the portability. Like me, they find that carrying heavy gear is too much of a burden on an aging body, and they move to a much smaller kit. I mean, you just saw the size of those lenses. You can carry a complete kit in a small sling-style travel bag, which is what I do with my Fuji stuff sometimes. And it's interesting to see what that experience is like for you, being
it's so much smaller.
It's crazy.
We were looking at mountain biking bag, my smaller one that I took out. I could put all 4 of these lenses in the body in there and it easily fit it all in there, no problem. It's very different. So it is. It's kind of the overall kit volume goes down significantly once you start adding lenses and lenses and lenses. I don't know. So it's interesting here. Paul Henderson says, love the idea of the OM3, but it just doesn't feel comfortable at all. Tech-wise, it's miles better than my OM5, but the camera is so much better to hold. I'm getting used to the feel of it. I'm kind of used to this, no grip style of camera from shooting the Leica. I've got a way that I hold it. I didn't buy a grip for my Leica either. I wouldn't, unless it's got a beefy, my hands are pretty big. So unless it's got a beefy grip, like something the size of a Canon R5 or whatever, the grip, it wouldn't work for me really anyway. So I sort of
I think Small Rig make a wooden grip for it, which would, if you're into that would suit it. They even made one for the Fuji X-Half. They announced it yesterday. A wooden grip for it. Yeah.
Interesting. We'll see if those start popping up on TikTok. But it's cool. But the problem is my, hang on, which one? This finger, my third finger, it rests on the little knob. What do they call this knob? It's like the color profile knob. Yeah. Which is actually handy. I liked having 4 tactile switches for different color profiles. I was shooting black and white and color only. I haven't actually figured out the other 2 really weird ones. And that's cool, but it's really aggressively knurled, and this finger wants to rest up. So when I'm shooting, it's kind of like that, and the third finger wants to rest up against this knob, and it's uncomfortable. And I'm still trying to figure out like where it can sit. That's not.
Well, I mean, if you're going to push, if you're not going to rest on your knob, where are you going to rest?
Well played. So maybe I just need to. I wonder if they'd care if I filed it down smooth.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, I've got a Dremel. I'll bring that over.
Just can you Dremel it down for me? Otherwise, I don't mind it because it's got like a little thumb grip on the back that my thumb can rest on. The shutter button's in a decent spot. I had a rookie error mistake. I almost Bruce Moyle just says, just remove that finger.
That's what the Dremel's for, Bruce. Oh, wrong one.
Can we modify the camera, not my hand? Anyway, so I almost snapped the mode dial because it's got the little button on the top. Now, I don't know if anyone has used other cameras, but the little button on top of the mode dial, you push that down and then you can turn the mode dial. If you used a camera like that, so you hold the button down because it's locked. So the mode dial's locked, can't turn it. Push the button down and you can usually turn it. I can't remember what camera I've had that had that, but that was a feature. This one, the
Fujifilm X-T5 has it. There's 2. There's one on the ISO dial and there's one on the shutter speed dial. But you don't hold it down to turn. It's just a pop lock. So you can pop it down and it's fixed, or you can press it again. It pops up. Then you can just turn it freely.
That's what this is. Yeah. I haven't used one of those before, and I was like cursing. I was like, what is wrong with this thing? I'm holding it down, but it didn't. When I held it down, it didn't pop. It just, when I lifted it up, so I wasn't pushing it in far enough. Anyway, I had a little bit of a moment, and I was like, gosh, I'm a rookie. Didn't break it. It wouldn't have mattered. I'd just, send it back and say it's broken. Bruce says Sony's do that on some models. Yeah, anyway, so the pop lock actually works. Now that I know how it works, it actually works really well because I would just leave it unlocked. But if I was doing some sort of crazy shooting, lock it in manual or whatever mode I want to stay in. So it was cool. It's, it's got video photo. Yeah, ergonomics wise, actually, I like it other than this this knob. Yeah, otherwise it's pretty cool. I haven't shot with it much with the bigger telephoto, but I don't think that's going to be too front heavy. I think it's their bigger lenses to where you would really want a different camera if you one of their other bodies that's got a proper grip if you're using their bigger lenses for sure. Yep. But for these smaller primes, which I think is what this is intended to be used with, like that kit, that's what I'll take to Brisbane this weekend. And I'm excited to give it a try. So anyway, that's my first impressions. Image quality, better than I thought. Ergonomics, pretty good except for the knob. And the lenses are tiny. And the camera looks good in person.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it and having a play with it. Folks, for those of you watching and listening along at home, we're gonna do a review on this camera, on the OM3. We're going to do maybe some video footage of Justin or me using it. We'll have a written review. We'll have a video chatting about it, and we want you involved. A big part of what we do here at the Camera Life is work with you guys. We feed off your comments, your questions, your ideas, and we pursue them. And if we think it's a topic worth pursuing more, then we'll get someone on board to have a chat about it. So we look forward to bringing you more gear-related content in the future. So make sure you like and subscribe.
Speaking of people contributing, there's a few good comments about the OM series and the OM system. Rick Nelson says, small sensor with fast lenses. It's amazing. I agree. I think I'm maybe when I start using these F4s is where I might start to see limitations in terms of ISO and image quality and stuff. But yeah, with the little 1.8 primes, I'm pretty happy. Paul Henderson, what a legend. If you want to borrow some Olympus OM system lenses, let me know. The 40 to 150 2.8 is superb. 1.4 teleconverter, 75 1.8 and the 60 macro. I might take you up on that because you know the other thing, and I know, did you buy the OM3 and get rid of it, Paul, or did you just feel it in the camera shop? Like, do you want to play with it and give us some thoughts as a OM system user? I would be keen. I'd be keen to know. Bruce Moyle says, I know a high-end wedding photographer that moved over because of a wrist injury and it stopped him from retiring. So that's it. The system is smaller and a lot lighter. And even Nev Clark's chiming in, I only shoot GFX when I know the images are for clients or potential prints. Hello XT5, which is another nice small little camera system. Rather go hiking with the OM system cameras and kit rather than Lumix gear. Brett Wooderson, I moved to Olympus because I'm always getting around car shows whilst traveling for work and hiking. Glad I changed. Yeah, a lot easier if you like just going on a little trip to toss some of this in your bag rather than packing a camera bag full of full frame gear or, God forbid, GFX gear. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to test it out, and it's fun.
So don't forget to let us know in the chat, in the comments, what you guys think of this system. Have you had a crack at it? Have you seen it? Have you held one? Have you shot with it? What do you think? Let us know, and that'll also form a big part of our thoughts too. So please jump in the comments with that.
Yeah,
I don't think we had time to talk about size does matter.
Size. No, we're gonna have to leave that one for next week. We'll get there. I mean, that was kind of this segment, really, but kind of. Yeah.
Fair.
Paul says, I've only felt it at an Olympus event in Melbourne, so very limited time with it. Would love to check it out with sport, bit of birding. That's where the OM5 falls well short. Well, let's figure out a time. I don't know when we're going to be able to do it because I'm going to get it down to Greg early next week. But then after I get it back from Greg, maybe we can catch up and you can take it for a few shoots.
Yeah, I'll try not to hog it. I'll be quick.
Try not to hug it. Okay.
All right. Let's call it a night.
Let's call it a night.
Look, for anyone that's new to watching what we're doing here, we're sorry, but welcome. You have found the Camera Life podcast. This is the Random Photography Show. So every Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which if you're in, say, the States, that's kind of early morning the day before. Is that right?
It's in the middle of the night. It's only for the late night crew.
Google it. You'll work it out.
Show.
And then every Thursday morning, 9 a.m. generally, 9 a.m. start on a Thursday, Australian time again. We have another podcast, same show, same channel, just another show where we interview amazing photographers.
Every
talk
week.
About their craft. Every week we do it. Every single week. So we talked at the start of the show about one of our most recent Thursday interview podcasts with Andrew Ravenko, Melbourne-based fine art photographer. Be sure to check out that and any other videos in our YouTube. What do we call it? A playlist? Is it an archive? What is it?
Yeah, Yeah, the back catalog, the whole thing. Plus, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts. If you don't, if you want to listen instead of watching, or what I would recommend, just get YouTube Premium and you can listen, while you're walking around, because you can close the app. You don't get any ads or anything like that. Highly recommend YouTube Premium. But yeah, we're everywhere.
Not all cashed up.
It's a bargain. It's better than
Netflix. How many streaming services I already pay for? YouTube was meant to be the one free one that I had.
Nah, ditch all the other ones. Keep YouTube.
You tell the kids that. It'll be mutiny.
Paul Henderson says, one last note, Micro Four Thirds is great for vertical. Vertical. Bruce Moyle, thanks folks, fun show, see you next time. Rick Nelson, Bruce. Does size matter? We'll never know. Great show as always. Nev Clark says it's actually the perfect time for the show. It starts at 5:30, which coincides with gym time. It's a little too dark to shoot, so it's perfect. I hope you got a good workout, Nev. Hope you get in the mirror and flex afterwards while you're listening to us. Next time, we'll actually
do that again.
Oh, Nev, next week, you got to come on just off your phone. I'll send you a link. You got to jump on for 5 minutes while you're on the treadmill, and we'll ask you some questions.
We'll just barrage you with questions,
rapid fire while you're working out.
Yep.
All right.
Let's call it. On that note, this has been the Camera Life podcast, proudly brought to you by the team at Lucky Straps, makers of fine handmade leather camera straps from Bendigo, Victoria. Head to luckystraps.com, use code GREG, G-R-E-G, at checkout, and you'll get yourself a nice little discount. But yeah, check out the site. We do straps, we do t-shirts. Oh no, I've got an Astro Boy one on today. Not representing very well.
Wait, one final question from the chat, which we can't answer because it's a long discussion, but we kind of answered it on our previous show. Errol Ebanks, why can't we use the X-Half? Good to see you, Errol, by the way. I think this is the first time in the chat. Why can't we use the X-Half as an event camera or portraits? The flash is an LED, so it's not very powerful. 2.8 on a aperture on a small sensor means that high ISO is going to be garbage. And there's a lot of other reasons. I wouldn't use it for events. But if you want to know more, check out our massive 2.5-hour podcast we did on Friday about the X-Half. Read Greg's review on it. And otherwise, I mean, you can use it as an event camera or portraits. Yeah. I just wouldn't. It would be a bad choice for the money.
Yeah.
But it would look cool. Anyway.
Maybe.
Nev Clark, I want a hoodie. We'll get you a hoodie. All right. That's it. Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay. We'll call it.
Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you on Thursday morning with Lucinda Goodwin.
See you, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.